Okay, here's the vulnerable video part 2. Let's just move that over here. Alright, so I didn't expect it, but my camera died on me, or at least, well, my memory uh, was taken up on the camera. So I will go back into what I was saying. Yeah, I have challenges with my schizoaffective disorder and ADHD. There are things that I'm just going to have to realize that are not easy for me to do, and if I'm trying my best, then essentially I can give myself some room to breathe. Being a perfectionist and thinking that everything has to be a certain way until before I'm happy it hasn't worked up to this point. So what I'm doing now, and it seems to be making a huge impact on my life, is just being nice to myself, respecting myself, having boundaries. You know, um, yeah, I feel like if I'm honest, and this may be a cure for the feeling of a fear of abandonment, is that first of all, I have to face the fact that people will leave, people will go away. Not everyone's gonna like me, and in fact, I'm only really gonna make really strong connections with a limited amount of people, unless this whole YouTube thing goes really well, and I can gather a great deal of people and have them help me achieve the goals that I want to with the charity work. But um, yeah, essentially, if you have a select amount of friends, or if you have only a few or only a couple or even just family members, not too many people in your life, I'd say the best way forward is to strengthen the connections you have with those people, because learning how to strengthen connections and deepen connections with people is a vital skill that you can transfer to every other relationship in your life. Unfortunately, people aren't going to be as deep as that. Like, a lot of people don't really necessarily need to have a lot of deep connections in their life, but it's a good skill to have. Putting yourself on display. Uh, Neil Gaiman, he's an author, and if you haven't heard of him, he's an amazing author. He does the books like American Gods, and he did one on Norse mythology, and he also did my favorite book, which is called Neverwhere, which is like Alice in Wonderland but dark and adult and homeless and twisted, and it takes place in London, underground London. So if you like that, if you like the idea of that dark fantasy, then that's definitely one I recommend. So anyhow, he said that with writing and with any art, I would argue that if you don't feel like you're or good art, compelling art, the stuff that gets people to follow you, to feel invested in your story, or it feels like you're running down the street naked. It feels very vulnerable, almost those things that you feel are impossible to share, and that may be a fear. It's like this right now. I know I have more fears in me. I feel that I won't achieve anything, I won't amount to anything, but I think that stems from the whole idea of not being worthwhile. But despite that, I'm going to fight past that. I'm going to recognize every single time I have a limiting belief that says to myself, "Oh, you're just a schizophrenic. You can't achieve this. You're not competent. You can't even clean your apartment. Why would you want to be able to get a job? You're just going to fail. All the jobs in the past you've left because of your addictions and your mental health. Like, how are you going to even have faith in the future?" And all of those are fears that are irrational, because I've made it past worse things. Like, when I was homeless, I would walk for days and days and nights on end because I'd try sleeping, and of course it's Canada, it's cold, right? It wasn't in the winter, but it even in the summer at night it gets really cold, and I'd wake up shivering and completely frozen to the core. And if there's anyone who understands that feeling, it is the worst feeling ever. But I made it out of that. I was able to find supports, and I was able to work to get myself a place. I still had challenges after that, quite a few, but it was moving past that that really showed me that I had some grit, right? Um, I know my story is not going to be the same as yours, and I think that we all have tough situations that we go through. Maybe mine isn't as bad as yours, but you know, it's like it's when you can recognize that you've made it past tough obstacles, you realize how strong you are. I realize how strong I am. And what do I want to do with that? It's like what Mark Manson says. It's like, doesn't matter the situation that you're given, bad, good, unfair, fair, whatever it is. It's not about that. It's about what you are going to do with that, right? And it can be extremely difficult to see that. It can be extremely difficult to even have the motivation to see that we have a choice, or we have a chance at changing our life or turning things around. But you know, it's still a worthy thing to push forward, I believe. Maybe I'm a naive optimist, but yeah. Anyways, I've been going in circles and going off on tangents. I know that, and I shouldn't feel bad about that because obviously that is entertaining in its own right. But you know what? That's a moment. See, we're given moments all the time to be aware. The reason why I said that was because I didn't want to disappoint or confuse people. I basically self-deprecated in that moment to say I'm not making any sense. That's cut and dry what it really means is I have a problem. I'm broken. There's something fundamentally wrong with me, and that's not the case. You know, our quirks, our eccentricities are the things that are going to make us rich. And that's kind of an exaggeration and a bit of a simplification. But if you can really harness what makes you different, it is a superpower. And just before I have to end this video, I will go into what I did to overcome these fears. And it's almost like exposure therapy, but every single time every single time I noticed, just like that, when I was using a meta-analysis, so thinking about the thinking, how am I thinking? That is an opportunity for growth, because if you can stop for a moment and think, you know, how am I feeling? How am I thinking? What? Here's a perfect one I learned. Is when you think something that bothers you, ask yourself, what is the purpose of this thought and how does it behave? And if you ask yourself that over and over and over with your thoughts, it becomes clear that a lot of thoughts are just nonsense and fluff. So you can lessen with training, with meditation and mindfulness, you can lessen your emotional response with troubling and scary thoughts. And it may take a long time. It may be challenging. It definitely will be challenging, but it's a worthwhile endeavor. And when I say Stoicism has helped save my life more than once, I'm truly, truly meaning it. So I'd look into that. Just read up on some Epictetus quotes or Marcus Aurelius or Seneca. And at that, I will talk to you guys later. It's really fun having these chats. If you want to support me and help make my day, you can check out my Bandcamp. It's Midnight Bandit on Bandcamp. look for the raccoon. And if you buy a song or two, it's going to help me buy a coffee, which helps with my ADHD, and so forth. Shill over. Have a wonderful day. Stay frosty.